This week we've got questions on Scandinavia, the Crusades, and which ecumenical council in church history had the most impact. Welcome to another episode of Off the Menu, now being broadcast and podcast on the Crusade Channel. Talk radio the way it should be at crusadechannel.com. I'm your host, Vincent Franchini from Tumblr House, here with a herbaceous Charles Coulombe.
Herbaceous? Like covered with flowers and herbs and stuff? Is that what you're saying? Like a herbaceous path?
Mm-hmm.
Surrounded with floral beauty is what you're saying.
Yeah. Or if you're going to San Francisco, put a flower in your hair? Is that what your people say?
Yes, well, that's true. My people, let me tell you something, smart guy. If you're going to San Francisco, you be sure to wear some flowers in your hair. See, what you never understood that there's a whole generation with a new explanation. People in motion. Yeah, people in motion. Well,
yeah. What song is it? Is this The Who? What is this?
No, it's the same song. There's a new generation.
Wow.
Okay. The whole generation with a new explanation. People in motion for those who come to San Francisco. Summertime will be a lovin' there. If you go to San Francisco, thrum. Summertime will be a lovin' there. Do you feel like you're part of it now?
No. All right.
What do you mean no? All right. Let me ask you. What would you prefer? Which of these two scenes? Feature this, okay? Feature this. A large urban park with a lot of young people, flowers in their hair, and sort of baggy garments, flowing robes, just being people, enjoying each other's company, grooving to the moment, singing, maybe doing a little weed, maybe dropping some acid, and all of these people just, being together in this sort of cosmic love-in, right? So there's that scene. You with me?
Okay, I'm with you.
Or you got 3 old men walking through the woods in a New England autumn. The leaves are all brilliant red and gold and yellow and orange. And they've got their dog racing ahead looking for whatever it can find. And the 3 men occasionally pick up an acorn or a mushroom or something. And they keep on walking till they get home. And there's a bonfire later. Now, which of these two scenes do you prefer?
I would prefer the latter. I like the woods.
So you prefer autumn?
Yeah.
You prefer autumn to summer? You prefer the company of elderly people to the company of young people?
On LSD and weed, yeah.
All right. Well, now here's the killer. What if I told you those 3 old men going through the woods? They had been at that park and were doing weed and LSD.
That's a dirty trick,
What
Charles.
A difference!
That's a dirty trick. You set me up.
50 years can... What a difference 50 years can make.
Wow.
Best buds since childhood. They went out to San Francisco for the summer of love. And now, old and retired, they prowl the woods near their home in New Hampshire. See, you can have it all if you're a boomer.
Sounds like a promise from
You
Satan.
could have had.
No, you could have this all.
You could have had. No, you could have had free love, a brutally self-destructive lifestyle, a career, a family, and live into old age. And be in a position to lecture young people about their horrible tastes in church music.
I mean, does that really happen? I really haven't encountered that. I feel like
no, it does. It does happen. It happened to my nephew Philip.
That's hard to believe.
He played.
I assumed that they viewed it as a guilty pleasure or something, or some antiquated thing from their time.
No. Phil got beaten heavily around the head and shoulders with a blunt voice in 3 different parishes in the San Fernando Valley for playing all that Catholic stuff. The Blueheads hated it.
The Blueheads?
Well, because, really white-haired old ladies, Susans of the parish council, there's a drop of bluing added to their shampoo, and it sometimes gives the hair a touch of blue, the white hair.
Are you serious? Like, what's going on here? That's very random.
Well, I mean, if you know anything about elderly people, some of us have white hair. And those of us with white hair, especially the female variety, it's not so much the case now, but it was when I was a kid. They would take a drop or two of bluing, which was a product for making whites really white as opposed to bleach. And that little touch of blue will make white really white. So they'd use it on their hair. And as a result, well, the Blueheads were the result, the blue-haired ladies. Now, mind you, there's a lady living today in the San Fernando Valley, and I think you'll appreciate her. She doesn't use bluing, but she is in her 90s, and she has a, what's the word, a cable show. And she is called by herself the Pink Lady.
So
and I know you don't believe me.
So wait, you're telling me that this person uses blue to make her hair more white, and she's known as the Pink Lady?
Well, no, she uses pink to make her hair more pink. There she is.
Oh, okay. A little bit to the more in front of your face. More in front of your face a little bit. There we go. Is that Maud? No.
No, it's not Maud.
Okay. Yeah.
The Pink Lady now.
Okay,
See?
Pink Lady. Yep.
Anyway, she's based in the San Fernando Valley.
What does she
do? And
do?
she does Pink Lady Presents. Well, she has different... She appeals to the seniors to tell them that they can still live full and enriching and enjoyable lives, even in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. And she says, get up, get out, and get a life. And she has a weekly entertainment show, like the variety shows we used to have when I was a kid, and occasionally sponsors live entertainment out in the San Fernando Valley. And sometimes at the Hollywood American Legion Post 43.
Okay.
Why do you seem so unimpressed?
I thought it's a saturated market telling people to get up and go out and writing books on it, and it's like it's almost like it's. I remember the discussion from from one of the first shows we had, and we were talking about raising awareness. And you seem to have a problem with celebrities raising awareness, and I said, do you have a problem with that? And you're like, nope, it's the cheapest bumper crop there is raising awareness.
That's very true. Awareness is the cheapest crop you got in the field, that's for sure. I mean, man, you may, the barley may fail, the corn may fail, but heavens, the fields are white with awareness.
So that's what I liken the Pink Lady to in terms of her message. It's just, okay,
You don't think you should get up, get out, and get a life?
Sure.
And she also says,
okay.
It's not over till I say it's over. She doesn't want old people sort of retreating into themselves.
I don't know what that means.
She's in her 90s, and she says that the elderly should keep going and live full and enriching and valuable lives. See?
Wonderful. I'm also in favor of all good and nice things. I'm going to go on TV. I'm going to say, do all the good and nice things out there. I'm just not as eloquent as Pink Lady. I don't put that little spin on it that makes garbage appear more interesting to small-minded people.
What are you talking about? What? Okay, repeat after me. All right, we're gonna show you. Okay. Repeat after me.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
I think that right now is the time when all of us.
I think that I think that now is the time for all of us
to pull together.
To pull together.
And to share our unity.
And to share our unity.
Right now, this moment.
Right now, in this moment.
Each of us has an obligation to be who we are.
Each of us has an obligation. I don't know if I can do this,
Charles. You see how easy it is? Each of us has an obligation to be who we are.
Each of us has an obligation to be who we are.
To be more of ourselves than we've ever been.
To be more of ourselves than we've ever been.
To be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
To be the best version of ourselves we've ever been.
Close enough. And we need to do that with everyone else.
And we need to do that with everyone else.
Together, we will make a difference.
Together, we will make a difference.
See? Don't you feel much better now?
Kind of feels interesting because it feels like I said something, but I actually didn't say anything. I feel more substantial.
Really.
This is. I think I understand the appeal, actually, now.
Yeah. You feel like you contributed something without really either doing anything or sacrificing anything or even getting uncomfortable. But you can feel as though you somehow contributed to the mental bloodstream of the planet.
That's really accurate. There it is.
You can do it with all sorts of things. Here's another one. Repeat after me. I believe firmly that children should be loved.
That children should be loved.
Fed and educated in a happy, warm environment.
Fed and educated in a happy, warm environment.
Right now, what this planet of ours needs most.
Right now, what this planet of ours needs most
is a happy and well-adjusted human population.
Is a happy and well-adjusted human population.
And that is what I have pledged myself to.
And that is what I have pledged myself to.
I'm asking each of you to join me. No matter in this, I ask each of you to join me in this important quest, regardless of the difficulties.
I ask each of you to join me in this important quest, regardless of the difficulties.
Together, we will make change.
Together, we will make change.
See?
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Well, at least it's positive talk.
Yeah, well, you want to be positive. You want to be positive, but I mean, although we can do it the other way too. I mean, try this one on for size. Ready?
All right, last one, Charles. You're beating our audience with this. We're bludgeoning them to death with this. Okay, let's go.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
Right now,
Right now.
thousands of homeless across LA County
Thousands of homeless across LA County
need vital help and assistance.
need vital help and assistance.
Are we going to give it to them?
Are we going to give it to them?
Let's not let this moment pass.
Let's not let this moment pass.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Isn't it great?
That's great. All right.
Don't you feel like you contributed?
I do. I'm definitely raising awareness and generating activism and making for a better planet. All right.
Yes, living for a better tomorrow.
All right. What is new with you, Charles? What's going on? You're in a different place. This is weird. People are wondering what's going on. We hear strange noises in the background.
You do? Well, I'm broadcasting from an underground bunker in the New Hampshire hills.
Okay.
I'm over the hills and far away.
Very good.
Over the hills and over the main. In Flanders, Portugal, and Spain, King Charles commands and I obey, over the hills and far away. There's 40 shillings on the drum for those who volunteer to come and list and fight the foe today, o'er the hills and far away. What do you think of that?
That's fine.
All right. Now, the good news is that I'm actually only here for a week. And so our next program will be back in Austria.
Excellent.
And if that weren't good enough for you, next Saturday is going to be October 21st. And do you know what that is?
I don't know.
It's the Feast of Blessed Emperor Karl.
Wow.
So that's when we're going to be recording. Now, last Monday, because I wasn't available, people did not get their show, which is a pity because it was, what day was it?
I don't, the 7th?
No, it was the 9th.
Okay.
It was Columbus
right,
Day.
The 9th. Yeah, Columbus Day.
It was Columbus Day as observed and Canadian Thanksgiving. And if that weren't bad enough, I came back to the States, back to my native country, back to my homeland on the 12th of October, which is the real Columbus Day, Our Lady of the Pillar. So I discovered Boston Airport, Logan Airport. I discovered it like Columbus. I arrived in the air. And I saw 3 movies on the flight. The latest Indiana Jones movie, which allegedly ends the series, followed by a real blast from the past, A Breeze to the Grooveyard, 1984's Repo Man. Followed at last by a very bizarre zombie film called The Dead Don't Die. So it was a pretty mixed thing. I flew on Delta. How does that make you feel?
I don't know. I normally don't do Delta. But yeah, okay.
And I had some friends from LA over the previous Monday and Tuesday and Sunday and Saturday, and that was fun. But I'm going back to Austria. However, I think I will be returning to LA. Are you seated? Sometime around November 10th.
Wow. All right.
Won't that be something?
That will be something. Okay, well, we'll see what we can do for that. You're going to be here a month?
About that, yeah. And I think what we will need to do is saddle up horses and go hunting for glazed donuts.
Okay, sounds good.
You know what those are? The bloodhounds. You see the little glazed donuts rolling away in fear. And of course, the hounds, they sort of channel them, and we come riding up on horseback. Red coats. And then, because the hounds would chase them in our direction, up come rolling the little glazed donuts, whimpering in fear. And we bend down and scoop them up with nets and take them back to the Temple House Tower and have a hunt breakfast of coffee and glazed donuts.
Beautiful. Love it.
You like that? You like that?
Like that. All right. All you people out there, send in your Halloween questions. This is just one opportunity as non-patrons to get your questions asked. So we'll be asking questions from everyone. So it's not going to be next episode, but 2 episodes from now. It's going to be October 30th. We'll have all the Halloween questions then. Yeah.
The day before Halloween.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Do you want to be the first to say it, or shall I?
You can say it.
The veil between the worlds is very thin this time of year. Like that?
Yes. Well done.
I remember years ago, I was at Mass at Carmel Mission in a little side chapel in Carmel, California. And it was the summer, and the priest must have been senile because he literally did the readings for Christmas. And it wasn't Corpus Christi. But that wasn't the weirdest part about it, though it was weird enough. During his sermon, he said, apropos of nothing, don't be afraid to pray for the dead. They'll pray for you. So he seemed very haunted. And if he had said, don't be afraid to pray for the dead, we'll pray for you, I wouldn't have been too surprised.
Wow.
You're feeling are you feeling the veil being slowly thinned?
Yeah, it's when it gets colder, you kind of enter into that. It creates a new feeling, like that October feeling over here in California. So
drops down to like 89.
No, not at all. It's more like in the low 80s. All right. Anyhow, moving on. Gratuitous plug, become a patron. We've got this new thing going on. You guys can do a free 7-day trial. Just try it out. Get access to the pre-show. Get your questions asked. Get early access and free shipping to the bookstore. You'll get a coupon code. So free 7-day trial for everyone. It's pretty cool. All right.
Void where prohibited.
That's right. Act now.
No CODs. Sorry.
Not an actor. All right. Book of the week.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Book of the week. Book of the week. The book of the week is They Flew, not The Flu, but They Flew by Carlos Eire, which is basically the story of modern miracles and the reaction, miracles of the saints and so forth, and the reaction, the unbelieving reaction of the modern world to them, and why. And I think this is very, very important because the miraculous, just as in our Lord's time, he didn't base his teaching on the miraculous, but he used miracles to reinforce it and to emphasize his points. So too today. Miracles still happen. The age of miracles isn't over. Oh gosh, who's that black guy who used to say, "I believe in miracles"? I can't remember his name.
I can't. I know the jingle. I just never identified the singer.
Well, anyhow.
How do you spell the author name? I'm having trouble finding this book.
Carlos is spelled
Yeah.
Carlos, and Eire is spelled Eire.
Oh. Okay. A History of the Impossible. This is actually wow. Okay, so published by Yale University Press. This is pretty obscure right now. It doesn't have a lot of ratings. That's interesting. You'd think of I was actually picturing this a classic. Hardcover, $29. That's unusual. But 512 pages. Yeah. National Book Award winning author. All right. When did you read this, Charles?
The past year.
Oh, it was just published.
Yeah.
Publisher Yale University Press, September 26, 2023. That's why it's okay. You're way ahead of the game. I'll see if I can add
sure
this
am.
to the bookstore. Great. Awesome.
Never let it be said I'm not on the lookout for new stuff.
All right. All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, the picture of it, it looks like it's someone levitating. It makes me think of St. Joseph Cupertino.
Well, it makes you think of that because that's who that is.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let us move on. So no memes this week. We're gonna go straight to the questions.
You're a big Mimi. A big Mimi. That's what you are.
All right. Let's see. First question is from Will, who says, "Hi. How was Catholicism brought to Scandinavia?"
Good question. Now the answer is through a combination of sources, actually. St. Ansgar, who was English, I believe, was made he first came to Copenhagen, set up a castle and church in that part of the world, and began evangelizing. But it was really the kings of Scandinavia. And this again was starting in the 900s when they were still Vikings. But King Canute of Denmark, King Olaf of Norway, King Erik of Sweden, all of whom were saints, were really the fathers of the conversions of their respective countries. Saint King Erik IX, sent an Englishman called Saint Henry to Finland, to what we call Turku, was Abu, was the only Finnish diocese for a very long time. But these folks worked to converting the Vikings, and when Norway converted, they sent missionaries to Iceland and then to Greenland. And by about 1100 or so, Scandinavia was pretty thoroughly Christianized. Although they were already there by 1 o'clock. Already there by 1000, when Leif Erikson and his band came to Vinland, North America. They were already Christian. So it started basically in the 900s and was completed by 1100. And you had figures like, say, Bridget of Sweden and so forth, who really the founder of the Bridgetines. Scandinavia put out very quickly a huge number of saints, of holy places, and so on, shrines and everything. And until the Protestant revolt, it was as Catholic as Italy or Spain.
You've told us before, but I can't remember. Why do you call it Scandinavia?
It's a joke in Minnesota. See, Minnesota was heavily settled by Swedes, Norwegians, and Danes, you know. They had a lot of them there. But it was kind of a joke from the other people in Minnesota because they're like Germans and Irish, Poles, and people like that. And so they would call the Scandinavians as a group Scandinavians. It's a Minnesota joke, you know. It's all right. It's okay. It's fine. It's a Minnesota joke. You like Minnesota, don't you?
Yeah.
It's okay. It'll be fine. It's you know, it's all right. Sure.
All right. Next question is from Zenix.
It's okay.
Yeah. All right. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen. I write to my favorite podcast featuring two Californian Italian Americans. For some reason, when thinking of Off the Menu, the image of the moon hitting one's eye like some food of Italian origin comes to mind.
When the food hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore. When you're starting to drool just like pasta fagioli, you're in love.
This time, I would like to ask about crusading and papal bulls. As I understand it,
Scusa me, but you see, back in old Napoli, that's amore. Sorry.
As I understand it, the papal bull that gives a war its spiritual benefits is what makes a crusade. Is this true? Could Charles please elaborate on the nature of these bulls, what the last few crusades were, when they were, and do Ottoman wars in the early modern era of the defense of the Papal States in the 19th century count?
Well, the oldest of these was Pedro the Bull.
What?
Yeah, Pedro the Bull. He was a papal bull, but he was used for bullfighting in Spain. They call him Pedro the Bull.
I don't believe that.
No. Would you believe Henry VIII was a papal bullfighter?
That's bad. You went a long way for that one. Wow.
Yeah, well, sometimes the never-ending quest for humor takes a long walk. All right, fine, be that way. I don't care. Well, basically, a papal bull was just that. You got the right of it. It was the announcement that a given war was being fought specifically against the enemies of Christ for the faith of Christ. And you actually kind of figured a number of things. One is that the early Ottoman wars, particularly the Venetian War of 1716, that was, I think, the last one that had a papal bull issued declaring it a crusade. But the papal zouaves coming from all over the world to fight for the Pope from 1860 to 70 often referred to what they were doing as the Ninth Crusade. So I think that, there's a certain amount of truth to the idea. But 1716, I think, is the last time an actual crusade bull was issued. Now, one of the interesting things, because they were fighting the Arabs directly in Spain for so many years, a bull was issued freeing the Spanish from the obligation to eat fish on Friday, to give up meat. But they would pay an annual fee for that, and that was called paying for the bull. It wasn't Pedro, though. It was a little creature, but never mind.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Okay, so did you answer every aspect of this question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I mean, the question was whether the what made it different. Well, it was the fact that the papal bull announcing a crusade would declare who the enemy was, and that the enemy was, in fact, not simply a temporal enemy, but an enemy of the church, an enemy of Jesus Christ, and would give the leadership of the Christian side the papal blessing. And the last time that was done was, I think, 1716.
So there were indulgences involved in that? Were there indulgences? Was there like a plenary or
There
something like
were.
that? Yeah.
There were. And there's even a rite for taking the cross in the Pontificale. So if you went on crusade, you have a cross sewn into your clothing, and off you go. The Jerusalem cross. Remember, the name crusade comes from cross, primarily because the first crusade was to free the Holy Sepulchre.
Sure. All right. Next question is from superfan and military school cadet Jude. Ooh, big time superfan.
Hey, Jude, don't make it bad. Take a bad thing and make it better. Remember to let her into your life. Then you begin to make it better, better, better.
All right. Jude, by the way, is like he could be a supermodel because he posts some of his high fashion accessories from Tumblr House, the merchandise store, on social media. Looks great. So thank you, Jude. All right. To the certified non-creepy Mr. Coulombe and the enterprising Mr. Franchini. Mr. Franchini, could you please ask Mr. Coulombe what he thinks of, firstly, the British Revolutionary War era General Thomas Gage? In my history class, we only talked about him briefly, and being as Charles is very well studied in history, may he tell us about General Gage? And would he please do so?
Yes,
see, he got you. See, Jude knows.
What's this military school?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they're East Coast. I could be wrong, but we'll hear from him. Katie or Jude, feel free to respond, and we'll tell Charles. Yeah.
Does Katie go to the same school?
Katie's his mom. It's a family. It's a family thing.
Yeah. Well, I have one thing to say to you guys.
What was that?
NMMI, with our colors flying high, we're all in step and full of pep as we go marching by. Rah, rah, rah. Cheers for the team on the field or in the gym. The old Bronco is the rare to go, and the Institute is out to win.
All right.
That's if we've ever played you.
All right.
Do you think it was wrong to sing the fight song?
No, that's jolly.
Do you know where that song was sang that was such an important part in American history?
Where?
Well, where it was Roswell, of course, but the when was 1948, when our planet, fresh from an attack on Los Angeles in the year 1942, once again received an assault by off-worlders. And the cadets at Nemi mounted their horses, gallant J Troop, under Cadet Captain Samuel Delancey. They mounted up and went searching for the reported UFO crash. Well, they found the crashed vehicle that night. They drew sabers and charged, singing the fight song that you just heard. They charged it, they hit the force field, they all vanished, and the men of gallant J Troop were never seen again. In fact, J was retired. We no longer have a J Troop in Nemi. We have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, all the rest up to November, but we don't have J Troop in tribute to Captain Delancey and his brave cadets fighting off the evil aliens.
All right. So are you going to answer what you think of General Gage? Or were you just going to talk about aliens? I mean,
No, I'm just amazed that you're not wildly impressed by this tale of cadet alien encounter.
I guess I'm desensitized to it after 7 years of off the menu. It doesn't.
Desensitized.
Yeah, desensitized.
So you in other words, you're just accepting it on face value.
I mean, it's just it's just another day. Another day in the office.
Just another day, another day in Tupper House, another day in the Twilight Zone. Not much to see here, folks. All right, fine. Ignore one of the greatest occurrences in ET history.
All
Go
right.
ahead, see if I can. No, Thomas Gage was not aboard the alien craft on that moment. Instead, he actually came from a family that had been Catholic until his father or grandfather's time. They were recusants, but eventually, in order to hold on to the property, they apostatized. But it was relatively recent. And Gage, a very jovial person, got on very well with the locals, so much so that he joined the Masonic Lodge in Boston, St. John's 1, which is still with us, and which had as members Dr. Warren, Joseph Warren, who was killed at Lexington, John Hancock, Paul Revere, and General Gage. Isn't that funny? So Gage was he was assigned to Massachusetts in 1774 when the last civilian royal governor, Thomas Hutchinson, was basically chased out. So he was sent over as a military governor, in the wake of the Boston Tea Party and all that kind of thing. He briefly moved for the seat of the legislature from Boston to Salem, but the legislature gave him trouble. And then, as things got more and more difficult, Boston became increasingly encircled, and finally, after the battles of Lexington and Concord, the siege of Boston began. And it was decided that he had been ineffective, and he was replaced with Sir William Howe, brother of an admiral and of a famous officer who died in the French Indian Wars. But Sir William Howe, unfortunately, was a Whig and not really behind the war effort. Now, if he had fortified Dorchester Neck and set up artillery there, the way it was done with Charlestown after Bunker Hill, they might have been able to hold on to Boston. But he didn't, so they got artillery up there. The rebels they had to leave. They evacuated. He then led the attack on New York in 1776, which was quite successful. So much so that he chased Washington up the Hudson and 3 times had the chance to grab him, surround his army, cut it to pieces, and end the war. But he wouldn't do it. And his final thing was to, before he retired, the plan had been handed down from London that he would move up the Hudson toward Albany in order to meet Burgoyne, who would be coming down from Montreal, and St. Leger, who would be coming through the Mohawk Valley, and it all culminated in Albany, cutting the colonies in 2 and with any luck ending the war. Instead, he decided on his own to attack Philadelphia, which left Burgoyne high and dry at Saratoga, which defeat led to the French immediately entering the war and making it impossible for the British to win. And then he evacuated Philadelphia and then returned to Boston to New York, and then England, where having resigned his commission, he took up his seat in Parliament amongst the opposition. And when asked by a parliamentary board of inquiry the reason why he had so mismanaged things, he said, "The answer to that question is political, and I declined to give it." So that was that. So Howe, I've got very little use for. Gage was a somewhat better fellow, but the British were plagued by a lack of strategic proper strategic leadership in that war.
All right. Andrew from New Jersey has a question. He says, "Greetings, Vincent and Charles. This is a multi-part question. First, is Charles familiar with a Puritan preacher theologian from the colonial period named Jonathan Edwards? I recently came across some of his work on YouTube. He developed a unique system of Bible journaling that I find most intriguing. So what do you think of him?"
Well, he was a neo-Puritan. He was the leader of the New Lights and the First Great Awakening. He tried to, on the one hand, make Calvinism somewhat more respectable intellectually, but also bring it back and restore the ancient fervor of the Puritans in New England. His most famous sermon, which you can read online, is called "Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God."
I read that in high school. That's very popular, I think.
Yeah, and also kind of dismal.
Yeah, I think that's why it's popular.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're trying to discredit Christianity, it's a good thing to have people read.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't care for Jonathan Edwards.
Right. Okay, secondly, I normally discount people like this because they are Protestant, but is it wrong to do that? In other words, can something good come out of studying the writings of Protestant theologians, or should I just devote my time to Aquinas, Augustine, etc.?
Well, it can if those Protestant theologians devoted their time to Augustine, Aquinas, etc. I mean, you had certain high church, Anglican, and Lutheran theologians who based their work on the church fathers. And sometimes they've got some interesting things to say, like in a more popular vein, T.S. Eliot. But by and large, stay away.
Okay. So we're kind of on a limited time schedule here, as Charles has got a lot of things going on in his underground bunker. So one last question for today. Are you okay over there, Charles?
You hear it? It's incoming. Come in, London. Come in, London. This is Winchester. Come in, London. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, London still holds out, as do we. This war will not be won on the basis of surrender, on the basis of faint-heartedness. This is a time when all of us together need to pull together as one. And if we do this, if we are faithful to our trust, the enemy shall be vanquished. Thank you. How was that?
That was wonderful. All right.
You feel inspired?
I do.
Do you want to do your part?
What? My part?
Yeah, do you want to do your part in the great struggle?
Sure.
Do you want to, join hand in hand with like-minded people everywhere, people of goodwill and of none?
What? And what? I was on board, but you slipped that in. Why did you do that?
I don't know.
You almost.
I don't know why I do these things. People of goodwill and of none. It shows how inclusive we are.
It does.
We're embracing diversity here at the bunker. We're in touch with centers of resistance across the planet. See, all the while, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm doing Off the Menu with Vinny, I'm maintaining connections with freedom fighters everywhere.
Good. Excellent.
I thought you'd be impressed.
All right.
You think this war will not be won with a lack of resolution? This war will be won through the mobilization of our emotions, our hopes, our dreams, our deepest thoughts. All of these must come together. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot guarantee a successful outcome to the titanic struggle in which we are all engaged.
Wow. Well,
pretty good, huh?
Definitely, I'm on board. I'll put the Facebook watermark on my on to show solidarity, and then job well done for me. We can do this together. We'll all show our support on Facebook, but it ends there. Okay.
It always ends there. What do you think? You think anybody really does anything? It's all sound and fury signifying nothing. It's all drivel. You know that. It's all a lot of nonsense. We're just yapping pointlessly, ladies and gentlemen. What we have to remember, though, is that if it's good enough for our masters, it's good enough for us. Why should President Biden and Prime Minister What's-His-Face in London and Justin Trudeau, why should they have all the fun? Why can't the rest of us babble pointlessly on a constant basis? High-sounding drivel that means nothing. If it's good enough for our owners, it's good enough for us. That's what I say.
All right. Will, final question. Will says, hi, which ecumenical council in church history had the most impact on the church? And after you give your answer, name the second most. I'm actually adding that because I feel like the first one's a little bit obvious. But, okay. Go ahead, Charles. The two most impactful councils.
Lateran 10 and the Council of, Vatican II.
Okay. You're changing your story. You're playing games with me, and I don't like it. Okay, so pre-show.
All right, fine.
You said
Nicaea.
Okay,
don't
Nicaea.
Forget what that great theologian Groucho Marx said. Those are my opinions. If you don't like them, I've got others.
Okay, that's good. Well, let's go that direction.
Yeah.
All right.
So no, I would say seriously, Nicaea was the most important council in the history of the church. It was the first one. It was convened by Emperor Constantine, Saint Constantine, and it began the Nicene Creed. It, of course, began the war against Arianism.
Yeah.
The second, to answer your question, would be Ephesus, which was like a follow-up, and began the struggle against Nestorianism. And if I add a third, I'll say Chalcedon. These three councils between them knocked down Arianism, Nestorianism, and Monophysitism, and basically established between them the Orthodox Christology. And on that Orthodox Christology really rests the entirety of the faith. Because if Christ is not God, or if he's not a real human person, but just a moral union between his divine and between a divine and a human person, or if he's just a divine person, then the whole of Christian revelation crumbles away. His ability to ransom us by virtue of being true God and true man is lost. For him, in order for Christ to do what he did with the sacraments and everything else, to establish the church and everything else, he had to be true God and true man. And our understanding of that was only codified through those three councils.
I see. Okay, yeah, I was a little surprised. I was trying to see if I don't know much about councils, to be honest. So I was wondering if you're going to say Council of Florence. I know historically you've talked about it a lot, but it's interesting. It makes sense given the gravity of what these three councils take care of. It's not to say that Council
Yeah.
of Florence wasn't hugely important. It's just
No.
if you don't have
No,
these,
it's
you don't
just
have
that
anything. Yeah.
exactly. It's a question. If you don't have Orthodox Christology, you have nothing. You don't have a church. You don't have sacraments. You don't have a priesthood, really. Now, what's interesting, though, is that those bodies which descended, as we say, from the Nestorians and the Monophysites, no longer are Nestorian or Monophysite, and they maintain valid orders, which is interesting.
I think you've made this point before.
I have done, yes.
And you had a really strong conclusion to it. I don't know if it was about the purpose of something existing beyond. I don't know. What was the point?
Well, the point was that heresy and a valid apostolic succession will not coexist in the same group for long. Sooner or later, one goes. And apparently, with the so-called Monophysites, the quote-unquote less Oriental churches, the Armenians, the Syriac, Coptic, Ethiopian, Malabaran, and with the so-called Nestorians, the Assyrians, the Church of the East, they, as far as the Holy See is concerned, they're now all Orthodox in their Christology. So they they go, and they've got now various connections with the Catholic Church they didn't have. But as you know, with the Church of England, the Protestants, they lost the apostolic succession by virtue of altering the holy books. The altered liturgy, the Church of Sweden claims to still have it. The Holy See, unlike England, has never ruled on their orders, but the adoption of the ordination of women has taken care of that question, you see. And the same with the old Catholics in Europe. The ordination of women ends the problem in any body that adopts it of whether or not their orders are valid in the eyes of the church. It no longer matters at that point. Pace would ever become out of the odd synod of odd sin.
I've been blissfully ignorant. Are you worried about that?
Have I been worried about your being blissfully ignorant? No.
No, about the synod.
Oh, who's to say? You get a lot of elderly non-binary people thinking they can remake the world. You never know what's going to pop up.
I mean, I guess my question is, can anything authoritative and binding come out of a synod? And if yes, well, see, these people don't seem to use authoritative or binding structure for anything anyway. So,
no, all they do is excrete proclamations, and if you don't obey, you're punished.
Right. So,
I mean, it's,
you know,
why do you think they couldn't respond to the latest set of dubia? Because in these minds, if we can call them minds, there's no such thing as a yes and no answer. There's only, I'm bloviating because out of the fullness of my interiority, at last, to some degree, under the modern understanding of these things, there's a sense in which the drivel that pours out of my nose is the sum total of my entire thought.
Yeah.
And you say, yes, I get it. Is that a yes or a no? Well, it all depends on how you define yes and no.
Okay. All right, just curious. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. It's nice to get your blood up, but I don't want your blood too
I don't want to get on that rabbit hole, particularly because it might give the wrong impression of the pockets of resistance with whom I'm in touch across the planet.
Okay, sure.
See, I don't know who we're resisting. That's the downside. I don't know what it's all about. I'm just here at the center of this communications complex, and here in this bunker. And I know we're obviously at war with somebody, but I'm not sure who. It could be space aliens. It could be elves. I don't know. I'm not even sure who my allies are.
All right. Any final thoughts?
Several. The mind you lose may be your own. No, I do have several. All kidding aside, I'm looking out right now, ladies and gentlemen. I would lift up the screen and show you, but maybe I could do this. I don't think so. I'm afraid. Look out that window.
Okay.
Can you see?
Hold it there a little bit.
Can you see
You're
out the
really
window?
laggy. Yeah, we can see out the window. Yep. Mm-hmm.
You see the red leaves?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just starting to turn. I love this time of year, but it'll be even better in a week. It'll be much better. Where the leaves are all red and gold. I love autumn in New England. I wish I would be able to be here to see the whole shebang, even Halloween. But of course, that can't be this year. Not that we're bitter. It's not your fault. I don't blame you, boss. I don't want you taking this burden of guilt on yourself. It's not your fault.
Have you ever done Halloween in New England?
No. I've done, when I was a very little boy, I did Halloween in Westchester, which I loved. You know, the land of Washington Irving and the Headless Horseman. That was great.
Yeah.
But never in New England. I've been in New England in late October, but never quite that late. And I once found myself trapped in Salem during their haunted holidays, whatever it is, because as you can imagine, Salem does Halloween in a big way. It's like their Holy Week. But
okay. Yeah, sure.
well, I mean, the place is filled with Wiccans. What do you think you're going to get? So I'd be afraid to be there on Halloween. You know, the buildup is bad enough.
I mean, that makes sense. That now that you say that, it just never occurred to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, imagine if you didn't like crowds, et cetera, and you're in Jerusalem on Monday of Holy Week. How badly would you want to be there for Good Friday? Well, it's the same thing. You know, you're in Salem like 4 or 5 days before Halloween. The buildup is already there. People are jumping up and down. Everyone's running around. And you know that if you were there for the big event, it would be, again, if you don't like crowds and it's not your faith, you know, mind you, I'd much rather be in Jerusalem for Good Friday than Salem for Halloween. So that seems to have gotten you there.
The imagery of that, I mean, the solemnity, the sacredness of it done in this town.
They take it very seriously because the Wiccans, you know, I guess we can talk about this a little bit simply because it is October.
Yeah.
And the veil between the worlds is very thin this time of year. So they have a whole artificially created backstory for Wicca.
Yeah.
See, you got to bear in mind that now the difference between Wicca and neo-paganism, incidentally, is that neo-paganism tries to revive specific paganisms, if you get what I mean. In other words, there's Norse, there's Italian, there's Spanish. I mean, every people in Europe had a pre-Christian religion, most of which we don't know a lot about, but the various groups of neo-pagans try to revive, to the best of their ability, that kind of thing. You see, and I mean, it's the neo-druids in the same way. They try to pick up something very particular. But the Wiccans are very ahistorical in the sense that the whole idea behind Wicca was invented in the 1920s by a lady named Margaret Murray. Now, Margaret Murray, what's that? Do you know the name?
No, I don't.
Well, Margaret Murray was a writer, and she came up with the idea that the witches of the Middle Ages were not, in fact, people who attempted to ally with the devil, but were remnants of pre-Christian paganism, which she called the witch cult. Now, there's a problem with that, and she posited that they worship a horned god who was mistaken for the devil by the ignorant Christians, and basically an Earth Mother type of lady. And the problem with this is that it was based totally on theory and had no connection at all to history. But nevertheless, this was what she read back into history. You've heard that phrase, reading back? I mean, it would be like if you said that the basic reason why it is that the Puritans opposed King Charles was because of their anti-communism. Well, communism did not play a factor in the English Civil War one way or the other, but you're reading back into it. What do I mean? Well, the king was the defender of the peasants against the oligarchy. So you could pretend that he was sort of a proto-communist figure, except that you're totally distorting the history by reading back that struggle into history. You see what I mean?
I see exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what Margaret Murray did in her exploration of pre-Christian Europe. She came up with this theory and she read it back into it. So then in the 1940s, a group of people, with the help of a man named Aleister Crowley, created a series of Wiccan rituals to fit this this imaginary religion, and that was it was done by a man named Gardner, I think, and that was the beginning of Wicca, which became much bigger in the 50s and really took off during the counterculture. Well, in Salem, they of course had always had notoriety as the witch city, but this really exploded in the 1960s and 70s. And Wiccans made Salem their holy city. And they called the period of persecution of witches, which again was not persecution of Wiccans because Wicca didn't exist. But in their imaginary history, they called that the burning times. And there are a lot of motifs and so forth in Wiccan writing and literature, and dare I say, culture that are based upon this imaginary history. I mean, I don't mean to say that witches were not burned or hanged at Salem. They were burned in Europe. They weren't hanged or burned at Salem, but they were hanged. But the people who they burned or hanged were not Wiccans. They were people. If they were not innocent, then they were people who were trying to give themselves over to the devil in return for favors. They were the one or the other. They were innocent, they were guilty, but they were not Wiccans. Does this make sense?
Right. Yes.
So Salem becoming this Wiccan Jerusalem is, well, I suppose the closest example would be Salt Lake City as the Mormon Center. Taking another religion that's been manufactured from a whole cloth. Or the Jehovah's Witness headquarters in upstate New York. So that's why I don't want to be in Salem on Halloween.
Makes sense. All right. Well, you enjoy your time in New Hampshire with all your fellow people there. That's going to do it for this
Wait a minute.
episode, ladies.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Wait. Hold on. This just in. Hold on.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
This just in. Ladies and gentlemen, there's been a great breakthrough in Sector 5. We have the enemy on the run.
That's great to hear. Thank you for that, Charles.
I thought you'd be happy to know.
Right.
No, I don't know where Sector 5 is, or even if it's on this planet. I have no idea.
All right. If it's Monday,
it's off the menu.
And the soul you save,
maybe your own.
See you next time, everyone.
See you next week. Ciao.